Hello, I'm Wade, and this is the Water Bear, my astrology vlog. Uh, for my first one, I'd like to talk a little bit about the synastry between the chart of the United States as a nation and the natal chart of current so-called President Donald Trump. And there's some interesting things that expose themselves in the chart comparison. For those of you unfamiliar with synastry, it's simply the astrological assessment of the chemistry between two people or two entities or a person and an entity in this particular case. Starting here with a look at the chart of the United States of America, also known as the Sibley chart, cast for Thursday, July 4th, 1776 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at 5:10 p.m. local time. I'll quickly highlight some major influences on the chart, starting with the Sagittarius rising sign, our nation's first angle, as it were, first house. Next, in the 8th house of transformations and joint resources, America's Cancer sun. And lastly, America's late Aquarius moon in the 3rd house of mundane day-to-day communications. Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus, I don't know how you want to pronounce that, and has been since the time of Uranus's discovery, which not coincidentally was right around the time of the American and French revolutions in 1781. And Uranus is very sensitively positioned in Gemini on the 7th house angle or descendant of America, opposite from the country's ascendant or rising sign. Now, Uranus is the planet that symbolizes, among other things, revolution and sudden upheaval, freedom, unexpected change, and reversals. It also represents genius and innovation, and in the sign of the messenger, Gemini, it can hardly be stressed too much the unprecedented roles freedom of the press and freedom of speech played in our founding fathers' vision of representative democracy. Now, also placing Gemini in the 7th house of partners and open enemies is America's Mars, and here I'll address the first synastry aspect with Trump's natal chart. At 21 degrees of Sagittarius, the exact degree of America's Mars in the opposite sign, lies Donald Trump's moon. Now, to put it mildly, the moon, which represents emotional response, and Mars, which represents themes of initiative but also war and aggression, is a volatile combination of planetary energies. Oppositions and squares are aspects that signal tension between planets and the elements of the character the planets symbolize, whether within the chart of one entity or between the charts of two. As if that weren't enough of a dilemma, we see here that Trump's angular proud Leo Mars at 26 degrees is exactly opposite the Aquarius moon of America at 26 degrees. So for anyone who feels that Trump's presidency is having an adverse effect on the emotional state of the Union, which this last aspect demonstrates pretty vividly, I think, rest assured, or rest as much as possible with this guy, knowing that the Union is having an adverse effect on the emotional state of Donald Trump, especially when it comes to the American press. Anytime you have an aspect repeat itself across two natal charts, A's moon to B's Mars and A's Mars to B's moon, you end up with that aspect appearing inevitably in the composite chart of the two entities. Now, a composite chart represents neither the A entity nor the B entity in isolation, but rather a third entity representing the energy of the relationship itself. From here, it can be assumed there will be no period of peace between Trump and the American public at large. I'm going to leave this analysis right there for now, having established, I think, a compelling examination of Trump versus America, Trump versus the press, Trump versus freedom dynamic. I'll be further exploring the most recent solar returns of the United States as they relate to the current administration in my next videos. Please subscribe down below to my Water Bear channel and visit my Patreon page if you think this is the kind of content you'd like to see more of in the future. And thanks for watching the stars with me.